Good morning, Justin Gibbs here with the team of the National Weather Service in Paducah. Another busy weather day is on tap ahead. We'll give you what we know. This is live on Facebook at 9:05 on Sunday morning. If you're seeing this later than 9:05, it's a video. It'll stay taped. That's why we do it, and then we'll post it to some other sites. Another appreciable severe weather rest this afternoon. Main threat is going to be hail and wind, and tornadoes are definitely possible as well. Uh, Potentially significant tornadoes. It doesn't look quite as classic as what we had a couple weeks ago as far as everything's perfect, but it looks good enough that we're going to have to pay attention to it today and respect the potential. And there's a appreciable chance that somebody's going to have pretty significant severe weather in our area or close enough to really need to watch it. Tornadoes, very large hail, quarter size or larger, maybe even larger than that, probably 2 or 3 inch hail if everything comes together just right in the right storm. Gusts 60 miles per hour or greater. We're going to be on guard basically from noon to midnight is kind of what we've got in our plans. Now, we have to be on guard a little before it starts, so take that for what it's worth. We're bringing people in between 11 and 12 to go to full battle station, so to speak. Uh, Timing is a little bit uncertain. Some of these graphics are a little less. Let me pull this up. So we've got 2 rounds. What we can see, and I know you all may not, there's a wave here, and then there's a wave right here. This little wave may initiate things as early as noon, but kind of thinking that it may be too early to really spark things in the Paducah area of responsibility in Southwest Indiana, South Illinois, but we're going to be monitoring it. And then this wave is expected to kind of bring the main round of activity this evening. And the model here that we've got reflects that. So this is 1 p.m. It initiates thunderstorms over southeast Missouri. And again, I think maybe that it's a little too slow, that it might make that a little further northeast, maybe into southwest Indiana at 1 p.m. But again, it's very difficult we don't have anything measuring the specific temperatures in that layer, so we know that we just don't quite know. Um, and then there's a little bit of a breather, and then we go again, and then the second wave gets here. This is 22Z, which is at 5 p.m., and then that brings quite a few storms. Now, what it does do here that is upscales it into a line fairly quickly. We got a lot of instability and a lot of shear, and it may upscale into a line. Now, what a line would mean is a slightly reduced risk of like EF3, EF4 tornadoes at the expense of more widespread weather across a broader area, 60, 70 mile per hour winds. And then a storm, an updraft that catches just right could produce, very large hail, 2 inch hail or larger. That is a pretty significant severe weather risk, and that there isn't a 0% tornado risk with the QLCS, what we call a QLCS, a line of thunderstorms. Uh, the model here is generating a lot of spin in the lower atmosphere as these storms track eastward, suggesting that we will have the potential for tornadoes, and a strongly sheared line can still produce EF2 and EF3 tornadoes. They're just a little more brief and not long track. On March 14th, we had tornadoes tracking for like 200 miles, almost 200 miles. I wouldn't caught that far, but it was. We got one that may still be between 140 and 150, and several that were 60 to 80 mile tracks, and that is a little harder to do with linear thunderstorm activity. Here's another model showing something similar. It's got a more linear overall. There's 8 p.m. tonight, and then it sweeps through. Another model here, kind of showing the same thing. It's got some individual cells out ahead, which would propose more of a higher end tornado risk, and then a big old honking bow echo coming into southeast Missouri. And all of that is plausible based on the atmosphere and what we see. And then this model really likes to spin up supercells. It does that in general. It's just the way the physics of this model work. But this is kind of our worst case scenario model. So it's got a pretty good supercell developing here, and then some more linear thunderstorms off to the west, and kind of clusters of messy storm mode. And when you get messy storm mode, sometimes you get interference, which can be both constructive and destructive, depending on exactly how it hits. So it makes it hard for us to predict, but we see enough to know, okay, well, this is a heads up day again, similar to what we had the other day. today, especially after lunch today, be aware of the weather, have ways to get warnings, think about where you're going to be safe. You know, it probably not a great day to be out in a camper or, 10 miles from your cell phone tower, completely off the grid. This is a bad day for that. Uh, it's going to be storming and rainy by this afternoon anyway. So um, you don't want to be out in a camper. We had some fatalities in campers, I think, with our March 14th event where people were enjoying spring weather and the nice day and all the things that we do, but it was just wrong place at the wrong time. So we want to avoid that today if we can. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a little bit, a little bit more question mark than what we had with the March event, but that was a historic event. There was a March 14th was like, according to some calculations, like 15th or 16th all time in terms of tornado outbreak. So it doesn't have to be that equivalent to be a really big deal. And then also, while we've got everybody here, more weather on Wednesday, significant severe weather. The wind fields actually look stronger with this event. Everything looks a little more classic with the event on Wednesday, even. Significant severe thunderstorms, all modes of severe tornadoes, hail, wind. And then a front stalls over us on Wednesday through Saturday. And we have in the explicit forecast right now 8 to 10 inches of rain across parts of western Kentucky. Now, this will shift, the timing will change, but that's the flavor of what we're saying. That something very unusual is expected in terms of rain, and with the leading severe weather on Wednesday, but Wednesday through Saturday looks very unusual. I'll show you one thing. The table by itself won't mean anything to you, but it's something we like to look at just to get a big picture, common sense. Okay, how unusual is this sort of situation? And when we see maxes and mins, that means the model's never recorded. Well, and it isn't perfect, but it means this is kind of extremely unusual, and we can see a ton of those here. So anytime we see that, this is all in the rainfall, moisture, available water, and moisture transport. That you see 5 days of that, it's going to be very difficult for us to not have fairly significant flooding. We're looking at our shear this morning. This won't necessarily mean anything to you, but while I'm up, it's about like what we expected. The atmosphere models this morning and the observed stuff is pretty much in line with what we expected. There's no big surprises there. We don't have a sounding from Little Rock. Oh yeah, we got multiple waves potentially. There's nothing on the radar right now. It'll probably be another 2 or 3 hours before anything of significance is able to develop. Maybe it'll spark a little earlier, and then it'll have a little less instability to work with and all the things that we might hope. But we're going to be on guard for it. We recommend that you do the same. Hopefully, won't have too much trouble, but we need to be alert for the possibility. Here's our timing. Again, 1 to 4 p.m. threat window for Southeast Missouri, 7 Illinois, and then tracking east from 3 to 7, 7 and 11. And you could end up with at least the potential for more than one round of thunderstorms and severe thunderstorms, with an initial leading supercell perhaps, and then which would be more of a tornado and very large hail threat, and then a line of storms which would be more of a wind threat with embedded tornadoes. Now, the trick, the supercells, we can see them. We can see the rotation developing. It develops over 10 or 15 minutes. We put a big old tornado warning out in front of it, and that's where we get those lead times like 15, 20, 25 minutes like we had, 30 minutes on March 14th. With a linear tornado, the tornado pretty much develops. We see it, we warn on it, and within a few minutes it's on the ground. So the lead times are much less. We're talking 5 or 6 minutes average lead time on that. So if you have a linear system approaching, it's that much more imperative that you react rapidly and don't wait for, tornado warning. Now it's time for me to find shelter, find a safe place to be. You want to be, when that warning comes, you want to be then moving to that safe place and taking that action and not waiting and all of the things that we typically want to do.